Ohayou gozaimasu, everybody. We are in Japan for the Japan Mobility Show. We are here at Tokyo Big Sight today. The entire Top Gear Philippines team is here this year, each one of us representing a different brand. Now we're gonna give you a tour of the inside. There are a lot of things to see this year. Now it's called the Mobility Show because it's not just about cars. It's about four-wheelers, two-wheelers, mobility devices, just about anything that relates to mobility. It's gonna be a fun show this year. It's been a while since we've been here. I'm actually a first-timer. Most of us are first-timers here, and can't wait to see what's inside. Let's go.
To kick things off, we are at the Mitsubishi booth, and the first thing that greets you is this, the Mitsubishi Triton AXCR rally truck. Now, this is not just some display, this is not just some random Triton that's been wrapped. This is the real deal and the actual one that competed during the Tough Rally. And the thing you should know about this is, it was only months before the actual race when this was launched. So Mitsubishi had a relatively limited development time, but despite that, they still finished the rally in third place. And it also proved its reliability along the way for about 2,000 kilometers. So that's insane for a fresh production model. But supporting it is the van over there. Now that is the Mitsubishi Delica D5 support car. Now its main role was basically it just parks alongside the stages, and that's where the rally engineers ride to monitor the reliability and the parts of the Strada rally truck. So without this one, maybe it wouldn't even have finished. So very vital role that it performed. And it looks cool too. Now this right here, of course, is the Mitsubishi Triton, formerly known as the Strada in the Philippines. Now, you might be thinking, okay, what is the Triton doing in Japan? Well, after 12 years of not being in the market, Mitsubishi returns to the Japanese pickup market with the all-new model. And that's a very important move because one of its main rivals has had a monopoly in the Japanese pickup market. And it's none other than the ever-so-dominant Toyota Hilux. But with the Triton coming in, the Hilux's dominance is under threat, and its main goal is to steer you away from that Toyota showroom. Moving on to the one right here. Now this is the EK Cross EV. Now it looks like a humble K car, but it's actually very significant because this is actually Japan's car of the year. Now the reason for that, well, the judges simply loved its simplicity and its engineering, and it also got a pretty good range out of that small battery pack. So big win for Mitsubishi here. Okay, so now that the crowd is thinned a little bit, let's go take a look at the DX concept. If you're probably wondering, is this the next generation Delica? Well, sort of, because Kato-san himself of Mitsubishi Motors said that this is essentially the blueprint for the next generation model. And fingers crossed, it will be introduced in left-hand drive markets. And who's a left-hand drive market? Us. So we're hoping that, given the popularity of the Delica, even in markets where it's not sold, we're really counting on Kato-san and, of course, Hara-san from Mitsubishi Motors Philippines to bring it into the Philippines once it reaches production. But it is interesting to note that Mitsubishi has an MPV that will release sometime in 2025 or 2026. So that might be the production version of that. So watch this space. Over at the Mazda booth, they're only featuring one model family, but it's a good one because it's none other than the MX-5. Now on display here proudly is the first generation model that came out in 1989. Now this was a very significant step for Mazda because at the time, roadsters were simply not profitable, but Mazda proved everyone wrong that you can sell a sports car and sell it in the millions. And this car basically just launched a whole other copycats, but it's never been copied ever since. And among all its competitors, they're all gone. Only the MX-5 remains. That's how strong the MX-5 name is. Now moving on to the next part of the booth is the 2024 MX-5. It's difficult to believe that this car came out almost 10 years ago. And the fact that it still looks fresh and it still looks new is saying a lot about the design. Now there is going to be a new MX-5 on the way, and that is what we're going to take a look at next with the SP concept. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the future of the MX-5. Now, for now, Mazda calls it the iconic SP concept, but we're not fooling anyone. It's really going to be the next MX-5, at least in hardtop form. Now, true to the MX-5 ethos, it's still small, it's still compact, presumably lightweight as well, and very, very stylish. Because, again, we're in a world of SUVs, crossovers, and etc. But here's this plucky little manufacturer from Hiroshima that still hangs on to the joy of driving. And after all, Mazda says they are a company that wants to make cars for the future that people will also enjoy. But there's another MX-5 that caught our attention. And yes, the iconic SP looks fabulous, but it's this one. Now I'm gonna go closer for scale, and I finally found a car that's about my size. Now this is sort of the MX-5 for kids, and as they say, start them young. So if you have any kids, you know, they could get one of these. Unfortunately though, it is not for sale, and sort of a one-off thing that Mazda did. Truth be told, Mazda could have saved its money and not displayed this at all, but this is Mazda we're talking about. They have their own way and they think independently, and the result is, well, stuff like this and the iconic SP. Now, of course, the Japan Mobility Show isn't all about Japanese manufacturers. There are a couple of foreign ones too, such as BMW. Now, over at the BMW booth, there is the Vision Neue Klasse, which is sort of a 3 Series for the reimagined electric era. But if we're talking about the present, it's this, the BMW i5. The thing about this one is it has about 500 kilometers of range, and that's pretty big, especially for an electric vehicle. So yes, it's a technological tour de force, which is what you'd expect from BMW. However, the styling has been a bit debatable. Some people like it, some people don't. But you know what? This is BMW, and you might be surprised that this is going to be a trendsetter in its segment and its other competitors as well. So that wraps up my bit of the Japan Mobility Show. I'm going to send you over now to Dinzo, who's going to take a look at one of my favorite SUVs.
All right. Thanks for the handoff, Anton. Good job. The hell? What the hell is this? Like, okay, this is the Neo Steer. It's a concept, and there are no pedals, no brake, no gas. You press this switch to accelerate. I mean, look at it. It's so Japan. It's so Toyota, right? Yes. It's not finished, obviously. They have to put audio buttons, cruise control buttons, the usual modern touches on all modern steering wheels. But of course, we're inside the LC250. It was introduced a few months ago, and we don't need to sell you this. We don't need to promote or market this. The waiting lines for this will be epic. It's roomy. It feels a little larger than the Fortuner inside, about mid-size. Left-hand drive, ready na. So, let's check out the outside. This is one of those cars that doesn't need a description. How would I put it? Right now, it's the best of Toyota in a Toyota. See the nice retro badge spelled out. The people who designed the FJ Cruiser were the ones who designed this. Toyota's quality research in California. It's amazing. In the metal, it looks so much better. This nice brown mustard color. It's not that big. It's about my height, 6 feet. 6 feet. And the proportions, the sharp angles, this grille, you just want to take it outdoors. Galing, galing. You probably won't be able to guess what car this is. Wide angle ba yan? They can guess. So it's the Century crossover SUV. The Century is Toyota's flagship that's only sold in Japan, and a few select embassies get it. I suspect they're eyeing a few more markets around the world this time. The lines are very long for this, I heard. Let's hope kahit konti, we see this on our roads. I'm not even sure they'll make a left-hand drive version. But it's amazing. In person, the grille, the sharp lights, and like it doesn't care about aerodynamics. Like it's so flat, and I like that boldness about it.
We're not back at the airport, believe it or not. We are at the Honda booth. And the Japanese car maker really went big on mobility this year. When they said mobility, they really meant it. From this aircraft, this is the Honda Jet Elite 2, which they have on display. They also have a scale model of the Honda Jet Elite, and it looks pretty wild. They also have something as compact as personal mobility devices like the electric kick scooter, a bicycle, and the Moto Compacto, which I honestly want to try out, but they're not giving out rides today. Of course, over here is the highlight of the show, and this is the Prelude concept. This is the two-door sports car concept that Honda unveiled at the show. It's basically what the future of performance cars from Honda would look like. No details about that just yet, but you may have already seen our walk around of this thing. Now moving on here, we have the Prologue prototype. This is the first ever electric crossover from Honda. You may have also seen that in one of our recent videos. And over here, another one that we already featured. This is the Cruise Origin, a self-driving taxi that's set to roll out in 2026. Now over here, smallest device Honda has here. This is a tag for your shoes. Honestly, I'm not sure what it does. We also tried this out already. This is a personal mobility device that has no controls. It moves with your head. It's a pretty weird concept, but it's also pretty fun. You might see people trying it out here. There you go. Another one of the highlights from this year for Honda is the Sustain-A-C concept. It's packaged together with the Pocket concept. This is not the Honda E. It's not like the Honda E. This is actually built using sustainable materials. So as the world goes towards carbon neutrality, this is part of Honda's push for that. Now let's wrap up this tour of the Honda booth by showing you the Afila. This is a joint venture between Sony and Honda, and it's Sony's first dip into the automotive market. As you may be familiar with Sony, it's a brand known for various technologies, like of course the PlayStation, its audio devices, and its televisions, and basically they've put everything into this one. It has various displays. You can watch films, you can play games actually, and supposedly it has a banging good sound system, and we're expecting nothing less from Sony. And of course, it's combined with Honda to make use of the car maker's technologies for this electric vehicle. We're also curious to see how this one will look like in the future, but so far, even if we're not being able to get close to it, it's looking pretty good. We're now here at the Suzuki booth where they have a lot of models on display. They actually have a Wagon R that runs on compressed biomethane gas. They have this Bergman that supposedly runs on hydrogen fuel, but we're going to focus on three because we don't have a lot of time here on stage. We have here beside us the Swift concept. Well, it's basically a preview of what the next gen Suzuki Swift could look like. It has still that same silhouette of the hatchback that we know, but only it has this more aggressive looking and a sportier design. You have these bigger headlamps up front. It almost looks like a bug-eye headlight. You have this blacked out grille here. You have more accentuating trim underneath. Now, they didn't reveal the specs yet, so we don't know what's under the hood, but they did say that this will be equipped with more safety features such as collision mitigation braking with forward collision warning. That's something that the old generation didn't have. So inside, this is still a concept, so we're not sure if this is going to carry over to the production model, but it looks a lot nicer than the Swift we know. It's still got a lot of fabric and a lot of plastics, but that's what you'd expect from a hatchback in this segment. It has this armrest, that's what I've noticed, and it's still got a familiar steering wheel and a familiar instrument cluster, so I'm pretty sure they might change that somewhere along the way. The third concept we're going to highlight today is the EWX. It's an electric K-Wagon concept of sorts. Now, as with the EVX, they don't have a lot of details about this one just yet, but We do know that this will have about 230 kilometers of range. The battery size here is still undisclosed, but at least we get a good look at it again, and it looks also just like the EVX, another futuristic Suzuki. You've got this rounded out rectangular highlight on the front fascia. You don't have a grill. You do have this grill-like pattern underneath, and it looks very retro. You have these vertical trims on the sides, and it's got a nice color to it. This is, I think, grayish white, and it has these neon green accents and black top roof. So this one has a very, very, very quirky interior. I am in love. It's got yellow green seats, and this square. You don't even call it a steering wheel. It's a steering box. Oh, sorry. So again, this is just a concept. So you've got a wild looking cabin here. You've got mesh, like this is fabric on the dash. What is this? I think these are earbuds. I don't know what these are for, to be honest. Maybe to strap on your gadgets or something. And you have this big display again up front. By the looks of it, it has a battery charge here. It's got the weather, and I'm sure it has smartphone connectivity. So many textures here. It's a bit overwhelming. Now here on the center console, you have this, I don't know if it's even an armrest, but you do have this cool shift knob. It's like a switch. It's like a huge switch. Drive, neutral, reverse, park. You also have a parking brake. Oh, you have an auto hold feature. That's cool. So this is a 4-seater, 5-seater-ish wagon. It's pretty small. You don't have much of a trunk at the back. Bonus content, we have the Spacia concept here. This is actually a hybrid K car. So basically, we're never going to see it in the Philippines. So Spacia stands for some days don't go well. Please take it easy. All right. Creativity is always by your side. So let's head on inside. Just like the EWX, this is a wagon of sorts. So you do have a spacious 4-seater configuration here. It's not as wild looking as the EWX. You have a typical cabin here that's looks like what you'd see from a typical production model car. So I guess that's it for the Suzuki booth then.
Nissan has brought a total of 5 concepts for the show, and we can take a look at 3 of them today, starting with this one, the Nissan Hyperpunk concept. So all these 5 concepts are tailored for a specific buyer profile, a user profile, with a unique set of needs. And the Hyperpunk is for content creators, artists, influencers, basically anybody who embraces style and innovation, people who are not afraid to stand out. And that's for a good reason, because take a look at this. It's a bit out there at the moment, but we're not sure how many of these polygonal shapes, these interesting surfaces, are going to survive into production form. In the cockpit, Nissan says the human-machine interface will use cameras and AI to capture the scenery outside and render them in manga or any other graphic form on the screens. The car is also designed to be a mobile studio, so it can charge gadgets and provide power supply for pop-up events. Finally, AI and headrest biosensors also detect the driver's mood and use that to pick lighting and music. We know you guys like vans, and what we have here could be a potential Alphard competitor. This is called the Hyper Tourer, and it's for individuals who value luxury and company. Those front seats actually swivel to face the back. And because apparently talking face-to-face isn't connected enough in the future, there are headrests that the occupants can use to interact in the virtual world and collaborate on things like setting a music playlist, choosing a destination, or customizing the lighting. But of course, AI can also do that for you by using biometric sensors to read your mood and make music recommendations. The exterior uses a lot of Japanese elements. For example, the wheels are based on a pattern called kumiko. It's a Japanese woodworking technique that does not use nails. Of course, again, the exterior, it will not survive intact. Some of these elements will remain in concept form, but the overall shape, I think, is doable. It will translate more easily into production form compared with something like the Hyperpunk. So maybe in a couple of years or so, we will see something like this on our roads. We went to Tokyo wondering if we will finally see an all-new GTR. And this is our answer. The Nissan Hyperforce previews the direction for this model, the potential direction for this model. It's an all-electric concept, so it's for people who embrace performance but want to be environmentally conscious about it. Nissan says none of these concepts are tied to a production model that exists in the lineup right now. But this car definitely references the Godzilla. Look at the taillights, look at that badge up front. Even the names of the driving modes are GT for Grand Touring and R for Racing. So obviously, Nissan's having some fun with us here. Okay, so let's talk performance. Nismo had a hand in designing the exterior aerodynamic elements. The car uses E-Force, all-wheel control technology, and peak power is 1,000 kilowatts, they're saying, via an all-solid-state battery. The thing is, Nissan says the technology is still in development. It might take maybe 4 or 5 years before it's launched. So if we are going to see an all-electric GTR, if this were to evolve into that, maybe that hints at the timeline for the production model. But of course, we can only speculate.